I have a really awesome project coming up next week, so unfortunately this week is going to suck. I'm kidding. Today's going to be great. Today I'm building a floating shelf from a 2x4 piece of birch plywood and a 1x3 piece of pine. This project can be made for under $25 and a little thing I like to call effort, if you've heard of it. Okay, let's do it. The first thing we need to do is cut the plywood to 36 inches in length and 3.5 inches deep. We're going to be using a circular saw and our 1x3 as a guide because I suck with the circular saw. I'm going to show you the coolest trick on how to cut straight. Are you ready? Okay, check this out. This is a circular saw, okay? This is the circular saw's blade. And this is the metal guide piece. We're going to measure off of the blade to the end of the guide, which is 1.5 inches. We're going to set our 1x3 1.5 inches off of our mark and clamp it and use it as a guide. Check it out. Once again, I'm measuring out 36 inches in length, and I'm actually using my 1x3 as a straight edge. You could use your carpenter square, but why? Slide the plywood around so it's hanging off of the end of your table, and we're going to measure 1.5 inches off of our mark. Line your guide marks up with the end of the table and put the 1x3 on the marks. The 1x3 should be flush with the end of the table. You can see the blade lines up right where we want it. Using your muscles, you want to apply steady downward pressure and sort of press along the guide. If you don't have muscles, you can use mental fortitude. Now that our piece is cut to length, we're going to cut the width of 3.5 inches. In this cut, you can see the saw lifts up a little bit because I don't have mental fortitude or muscle. Don't be like me, apply downward pressure and you'll be fine. I'm using my existing piece as a guide for the next piece. We need two 36 by 3.5 inch pieces, so we're going to repeat exactly what we just did. On my miter saw, I'm cutting two 1x3s at 3.5 inches. These are going to be the outside pieces of our floating shelf. Then I cut one piece at 36 inches. Okay, now that we have the main box built, we're going to put it together using the Craig jig. We set the Craig jig to accommodate 3/4 inch material, and all we're doing here is drilling 2 holes on each of our 3.5 inch pieces to attach it to the front 36 inch piece. Throw on some wood glue, clamp, and screw in with 1.25 inch pocket screws. Repeat that on the other side. Glue up the 3 inside edges of the plywood and we're going to slip it into the front and side of our shelf. I'm using my pneumatic brad nailer to attach the plywood to the 1x3s. If you don't have a brad nailer, you can just use glue and clamps or heavy objects. Using 1.25 inch brad nails, I just make my way down the front of the shelf. And we're going to rinse and repeat all of those steps for the other side of the shelf. Don't nail your finger. I'm using wood filler to fill in all of the brad holes and any imperfections in the shelf, which turns out to be most of the shelf. I'm going to let that dry and sand it down so that it's silky smooth. I wanted to give the floating shelf a distressed look to match this stacked storage chest end table I just made. So after sanding the piece, I started hitting it with random things, such as a screwdriver, nails, hammer. You can see some of the marks. Now when I go to stain it, I'm going to make sure the stain penetrates deep into these marks and give it a pretty cool distressed look.
Did you steal the chocolate? Did you steal the chocolate?
I did not steal chocolate. It's in the pantry.
It's not there. Did you
It's
eat it?
next to the graham crackers, which are next to the marshmallows.
Okay, thank you.
I did not steal the chocolate, I swear.
Daddy, are you eating the chocolate, Mommy? Why do you have the chocolate?
I did not. I did not eat your chocolate.
Chuck, Mommy found it.
Okay, good. I might have eaten a little bit of the chocolate. But I left enough for s'mores. So. Okay. So I distressed my floating shelves, and now I'm going to throw some paint on to sort of further that effect. I'm masking it out with painter's tape. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to sand off as much as I want to try and get the desired look that I want, and then I'm going to stain it in a similar fashion that I did the stacked storage chest end table. I want these to match, but we'll see how that goes. Check it out. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, and maybe I'll have some s'mores. Okay, while the paint dries on our floating shelf, I'm gonna measure the inside, and it's just shy of 1 5/8 inches. So, for our bracket, we're gonna take some 1x2s, which are actually 3/4 of an inch by 1.5, and they'll slide in there really nicely. Like so. Okay, there's a little wiggle room. That's fine, we don't want it to be too tight. And then we're gonna cut a few pieces so that we can reach the end of the inside. Why don't I just show you? I cut 4 1x2s at 2 5/8 of an inch and 1 long piece at 35.5 inches. This is what we're going to use as our bracket. Ideally, we want to evenly distribute the 1x2 support pieces so that it bears the weight of the shelf. Using the B and C holes on our Craig jig, we're going to put 2 pilot holes in each piece with 1x2. Then, using 1 1/4 inch pocket screws, we're going to attach the 1x2s where we discussed just a second ago. Well, it was less of a discussion and more of me telling you, but that's kind of how our relationship is right now. Very one-sided, I might add. You can see our bracket slides in and out nicely of a floating shelf. This is perfect. This is exactly what we planned for. We are the best. I'm going to peel this masking tape off and then sand it down just to give it a weathered look. Go inside your dwelling and locate the studs where you want to hang this thing, and then transfer those marks onto your bracket. Using a drill bit, we're going to pre-drill those holes. Nailed it!